Hi. Do we wait to record or
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh no, I think it's recording.
yeah, well, I was thinking maybe wait till people come, or you think
Oh, to pause, you mean, yeah. Because I don't think other folks are going to show up, and we're about 7 minutes in. But we're now recording. I just wanted to kind of show you what you need to do to set up your classes on Brightspace. So I'm going to do a screen share. It wasn't working earlier, or it wasn't sharing what I wanted it to. So let me know if you're not able to see what I'm showing. But you should be able to see the Brightspace homepage. Is that right? Brightspace.cuny.edu. If you scroll down, if you're logged into your own Brightspace, you should see new shells and old shells. Your old shells are what's converted. So, and that is, if you look through there, you'll notice like some of the materials are there on the content side. So this is like got old announcements. The content is where your old materials will show up. So if you're looking for something, this is where it is. And these are sort of the modules that I have set up. There are sort of weekly modules. And so those have reorganized into Brightspace. This is just so that you can find stuff that's old. If you need to transfer something, there is a way, there is a way to move stuff. So let me see if I can figure that out. Or maybe not. Maybe it's I was playing around with this earlier. So at any rate, if you go back to the courses, you should be able to find, uh, sorry, let's go away from the chat. Um, you should be able to find your old courses. Let's see.
One question. All the courses have been migrated to Brightspace, right?
They should, but there's going to be some stuff that may not have made it. There may be
Okay.
some big files that didn't show up. I just wanted to kind of show you where the old stuff was.
Hmm.
So you may actually have to like download it into your computer to an existing hard drive and then upload it to your new course shell.
Okay.
I can play around with that and figure out a little bit more. But this is what my class looks like for classics and feminist thought. In order to make a class active, so that students can view it, you have to go into course admin. You go to, and it's sort of confusing. You go to course offering information and you click courses active to make your course active, and then click OK, save that, and it'll make your course active again. So if you click on this heading, it'll bring you back to the course itself. If you are creating content in your course, the best place to do that is on the content page, although it basically all will end up here. If you add stuff on assignments, if you add stuff in activities, it will eventually show up in this content area. So this is the place where you want to put like your syllabus. So on the overview, I entered this text. You can put anything that you want to. And then I was going to wait to show you how to do this, but one thing that is nice about Brightspace is you can click and drag, and that was not something that always worked super well in Blackboard,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
inconsistently. So you can upload from your computer, but I'm gonna drag a file. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because I'm dragging it from another window, but I'm gonna drag the file. Oh, yeah, drag the file in here. and it uploads the attachment. It takes a while for the little pot to cook. And then here we go. It sort of folds your syllabus right in there. So it's kind of nice because you don't have to download anything or click anything. It's there for the students. They see it immediately. Um, and then the way that I'm going to be organizing my syllabus is with sort of a weekly reading schedule. If you don't want to do something that is that complex, if you want to just arrange everything in your readings, you can obviously do that as well. So for week one, I'm teaching this sort of keyword by Daniel Hosang on intersectionality. So I think I also have a reading from Audre Lorde. If you want to upload those things, you know, you can also do a search. And I don't know, it's not coming up.
So this is an option you can drag and drop, or you can upload it.
Exactly, yeah. So. But, in any case, I can't find these files. My computer is being really uncooperative right now. You just upload here and it goes directly into the materials area. So you can also add text. So I added this from the syllabus, mostly just to kind of show you what things look like. And then for activities, I have a discussion assignment that I'm going to add. You can either add it in the week that it's due, right? And you can sort of put it directly in these modules, or you can add it through the activities page. So the activities page, there's a couple of different ways that you can give assignments. So you can do an online quiz, and you have to actually create the quiz. I don't use this function very frequently, and I don't think I'll use it at all in the spring because I don't have any classes where it would make sense to do that. But the quizzes are, I think, a little bit easier to create in Brightspace. So, um, then you
When
can kind of create different questions and it should integrate into your grade book. So, and each of these are very similar to the tabs that are added in assignments on Blackboard. So, if you want to make that available on a certain date or in that, you can put those dates there. So, um, you can give a password if you don't want students to access the quiz at a certain time, right? You can create a time limit for the quiz. And, there's a couple of other things that you can add to, and then it should synchronize to your grade book. So if you go back to activities, there's also discussions.
I
Sorry for it.
I do have a question regarding quizzes. So in Blackboard, I remember that so you created the quiz and then you could just put the quiz. I what I used to do is put the quiz in each on the week that it was due, right? So week 11, so the quiz number 4, for example. So can we do that here, or how are quizzes managed? Do you know?
If you want to do that, I think you can. So I think what you would do is you go to the upload create module.
See,
So,
new quiz. Yeah, I
and
see.
then you go to new quiz.
Oh, okay.
It's the same thing. If you create a quiz outside of the weekly module, it'll still assign
Oh,
the quiz to
okay.
students.
Okay.
But this will you can organize it this way too. Um, and that's probably what I'll do. I'll show you my first activity, I think, is a discussion board assignment. And I'm gonna actually go back into my previous assignments. I'm sure I'll edit it at some point, but um, see. So this is also a way that we can find out if our information maintained from the migration. But if I go into activities and look at discussions, great. So it has kept my discussions. So what I could do is just kind of copy and paste this. So this is the text. Um, if I wanted to put this in my first week, and I won't, but it doesn't matter for now. What I could do is create a new discussion board 100 points. And then this is their prompt. So the due date is something like February 5th. And these are settings that exist on Blackboard discussions too. So, and then you can add a rubric. You can create a rubric from scratch, or you can upload a file. You can add learning objectives. So, or manage or associate learning objectives. This is not something that's necessary, but sometimes it's useful for students. Um, and you can either grade individual posts, right? And sort of set your grading scale there, or you can allow students to rate each other's posts. So, this is pretty standard. There's not a whole lot of difference between this discussion board and Blackboard. It looks nicer. It's a little more streamlined in some ways, but it sort of looks exactly the way a discussion board assignment would. And I'm not going to add that because I do think that it's due at a different time. So there's also ways that you can interact with students that don't involve a quiz or don't involve a discussion. You could give students a survey. And I know in Blackboard that was like a separate app. You can kind of create a survey, like what did you learn? What did you like? What did you dislike? Kind of thing. And so those are
Chris,
the
can I interrupt for a second question?
yeah.
So go back to, yeah, there. So in week one, so we're in week one right now, and you have the one reading and the quiz. So if you wanted to, week one, you've got two classes, say, like a Monday and a Thursday. Can you with two different readings? Like, how would you divide it that way? Would you
Well,
create like a new,
I
uh,
I mean, I probably wouldn't do anything different. I would just add everything into a single module, but you could always say, January 27th could be a module, and
I
then
know, but once you're in week one and you have materials and you have quizzes, what if you had, January 27th? Oh yeah, the submodule, that's Emily is saying. Submodule feature. So where's the submodule feature? How do you get that one? Thank you, Emily.
But also you define the modules, right? So instead of defining your module as week, you will have to define your modules as sessions. Like January 27 would be module one. And
No,
then,
well, if it's a submodule, then it wouldn't have to do that. So Emily, do you know how to do the
Yeah,
submodule?
you could just right at the bottom it says add a submodule.
Oh, there it is. I
great.
see.
Okay, so like in week
oh,
one, you can have a module for January 27th, a module for January 30th, and you
I
can do a
see.
module for like discussion boards, assignments, like work, you can kind of do
Yeah.
whatever you want. It's pretty flexible.
Okay.
okay.
So for this, you could create like a reading, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you had like a specific question or a prompt. Some folks like to ask a question with every single reading, and this is actually a pretty easy way to do that. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
great.
it doesn't have to be integrated into your grade book either. So it
Mm-hmm.
can be a non-graded assignment or whatever. So like surveys are oftentimes useful. Uh,
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Okay.
uh, and I think there was one other. these are for written assignments or like just sort of a blank assignment. This is useful for a writing assignment, and I think you can also do like if you have a text submission, you should be able to, or I thought you could. Here it is. You should be able to use Turnitin here.
Actually have a question about that. Do you know if you can use the Turnitin like peer review studio through Brightspace?
I think you can. I think once you turn it on, it should send you to the Turnitin a studio when you grade. So
Hmm.
that's what or at least that's what happened when I was using Brightspace at Pace. I don't know if that would be different here.
Yeah, because Turnitin also changed the way they do that. So now like the peer review assignment is like an option that attaches to the original assignment. You don't create a new assignment. So I was trying to figure out if that would be integrated, but I couldn't, I was playing with it, but I couldn't figure it out.
I'm
I'll
not
I'll see if I can play some more.
I'm not sure, but I would be interested to know that because I'm using workshops in one of my classes, and if I could do that through Turnitin, that would be much more useful than having them do it in a manual kind of way. Um, but there should be, I mean, let's see, within Brightspace, I do think that or maybe it's within the individual class. Well, there is within your grade book a way to look at Turnitin, but
It
um,
looks like if you create the assignment in Turnitin first and then link it to the assignment in Brightspace, that you can add the peer mark on the back end through Turnitin, if that makes sense,
and
which is a little complicated, but
when you're using Turnitin, is there is there a login for CUNY, like a CUNY login that you use?
I think you just use your CUNY email address, but I don't know.
Okay. I haven't used Turnitin in a really long time because I've just been using SafeAssign,
Yeah.
which is the current software for Blackboard. So at any rate, but yeah, Turnitin is really useful. It's integrated with the Brightspace. So I feel like you would be able to use that studio or use those peer review settings. I just don't know. I'm not entirely sure. So the gradebook setting is also a little bit more straightforward in Brightspace. The gradebook setting um, has your students already in there. So, and you can basically create, let's see, as you create assignments, they should show up in the gradebook. And you manage your grade book through manage grades. So you can create like a new assignment, or you can create a new category for your assignments. So and if you wanted to do all of your discussion boards, for example, so it makes you do this short name kind of thing. You write down your description. Um, if you don't want to include it in your final grade, you could exclude it from the final grade. And then this is how you distribute the grades themselves. So in my discussion board assignments, I think each one of them is worth 10%. So I could do 10 points per item. Um, and save and new creates this new category. So
How do you do weighted? Or, what if all discussion points and then the final grade is the average of them? Do you ever do that?
I think you
Yeah.
go to manage grades.
Uh-huh.
I use weighted averages because it's so easy. You have to set everything up at the beginning, but then
Yeah.
drop a discussion board assignment or something like that. It doesn't matter because the weighted average is correct. I'm not seeing. I have not figured out how to do this with Brightspace. Uh,
Yeah. The weighted, you mean? How to do weighted?
Well, so you can go to your setup wizard. So, and I think your setup wizard will allow you to create weighted categories. So,
okay.
yeah. So, if you wanted to do like a percentage, you just select this as your grading system, and it should calculate for you. And it should actually prompt you to put in your percentages. So, and this is also something that has come up in Blackboard. If you have an ungraded item, it's blank in Blackboard gradebook. In this, you can treat it as a zero. So if a student doesn't submit their work, it turns into a zero at a certain point. So, if you don't accept late work, which I don't think there's very many of us that have a zero tolerance policy, you can always select this. So, and then this is how you can choose your grading scales. So, and there's the Hunter undergraduate grade scheme, which is, A plus, B minus, all of that stuff. So, and then this is what students can see. And then this is the final piece of that. But you do a lot of this through the setup wizard. If you don't have your assignments ready at the beginning of the semester, it's kind of difficult to do that. But it's, in some ways it's an incentive to do those early on. And you can set them up so that students don't see them until they're actually due or until closer to the time that they're on the syllabus. So, that's basically Brightspace in a nutshell. Everything is very similar to Blackboard. I think it's a little bit easier to use because you can drag and drop. So, yeah, Alberto.
Uh, can we see the rooster here, like students enroll in a class? I don't see any tabs that. Um,
In mine, when I go to the grades, that's one of the places where I see the students that are signed up for this
okay.
class. So they should also be in other places as well. I think under course admin, I mean, this is also something that's really useful. If you go into attendance, um, let's see. Well, maybe it has not set up this roster yet, but typically there's a roster and you can mark when people are present and when they're not.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm not sure why my roster is not integrated yet. So,
Okay.
uh, yeah, maybe that's something I can see in class progress. So,
Emily
um,
saying a good question about merging sections, or like, we have cross-listed classes, so you have a separate, is there an easy way to put those together, do you know?
I don't know in Brightspace, but I do think that it's probably going to be similar to merging classes in Blackboard, where we're going to have to reach out to somebody at the college and ask them to do that. So the other thing that I have been doing with Brightspace has been looking at some of the tutorials.
Hmm.
So sometimes these are helpful, sometimes they're not. Brightspace is a little better than Blackboard in that most of the features are there. With Blackboard, depending on what version you had, a lot of those features weren't available. But Brightspace has almost everything there. So I think, this is probably accurate. This video, and I haven't seen it. Let's start it. But I'll be curious about this because I do have a couple of sections I'll probably end up combining as well. Um, so uh let me see. But yeah, at any rate, that's my answer to that question.
Thank
Sorry
you.
that I'm not more helpful. Yeah,
No.
go to YouTube and watch a video is going to be my my answer to most other questions because this I just kind of know the basics. And I'll probably do a little bit of learning by doing. So um, yeah, after I tell my students don't trust YouTube, I am of course on there all the time to teach myself these new technological tools. So there's also like and I have played around in a couple of these sandboxes, but this is pretty good. And I watched a couple of these videos or I had them on in the background the last couple of days. Some of the stuff is really useful, and some of it is like there's a lot of features in Brightspace that I don't think that I'll ever use. But there's a lot there. And so, I think that this is a useful page. Um, and this is not super active. The community is not super active, but this is also a place where you can find out more information about what's available. So, but there's a lot of FAQs here, a lot of these features that are on Brightspace. Some of this is useful. So one of the things I was looking at is maybe being a little bit more active with my calendar tool in Brightspace because I don't really use it at all currently in Blackboard, but it's a little easier to use in Brightspace. So I'll probably start using the calendar function to set up assignments, to let students know about readings and that kind of thing. And that is the calendar is under your tools. So, and I think that the tools are also just a little more useful here. The other thing is if you create rubrics in in Brightspace, I just think it's a little easier to use. And I do use rubrics for things like exams. Um, and so, you have to kind of play around with it a little bit to get the right number of points. But it's a really useful rubric. Unlike a Blackboard, when you enter in the information, it doesn't crowd everything into a small box. It kind of expands it. So you can actually include pretty complicated descriptions of your learning goals if you want to include that. And so I think this is a really useful tool. Um, and those are the sort of main bells and whistles that are associated with Brightspace. So there are some other things that I think are kind of unique. I don't know if I'll use them, but you can give awards to students for turning in assignments on time or for having perfect attendance. So it's a very gamey. It reminds me of video games, and is set up I think, kind of function a little bit more that way. So maybe students will be more incentivized to interact with it, and
And
that's my hope. So because
the
they're not interacting very much with Blackboard. Sorry, Alberto.
sorry for interrupting. The awards have a weight on the grade, or can you make them have a weight, or just like for motivation?
I think it's just like they get like a little gold medal for motivation. I don't know if you can I don't know if you can attach points to the awards, but you might be able to do like bonus. So, yeah. Uh, and I think that's about it. There's a couple of things that are integrated that we don't really use in our department. We don't really use like Pearson materials or some of the textbook materials that are integrated. So, those are some additional things that you'll notice if you're digging around in some of these areas, um, but we don't really have those. So, everything else is pretty self-explanatory. I think it's very similar to Blackboard and easier to use. And I know I'll be learning a lot over the course of the semester, just kind of learning by doing. So, we might do another check-in next semester and see if we've learned anything or like sort of best practices. I am not the most technologically savvy person, and I can be a bit of a technophobe. So if I can do Brightspace, I feel like that's a good sign. So it's a good sign for other faculty members. Um, is there um, is there other stuff that I can answer? Bye, Catherine. Thanks for coming
I
in.
can.
Um, is there other or are there other questions or are there other items that we can answer?
I mean, there's a couple things in the sandbox or not in the court, you can create like your own course, a practice site. Um, and you can do stuff in there and then you can move it over to your things that
Real
you like
site.
if you like it, you know what I mean, rather than kind of feeling like you're going to make a mistake in your actual class shell, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is the practice course.
Yeah. So you can kind of, if one wants to,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. Um, Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Because I did one of the webinars, there's like templates, that you can, different pages that that then you populate it, So I think it's just fine learning it, I guess.
Well, and that's I mean, there's like some visual things that you can do with your course.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you probably have noticed I added some photos that are not native to the site. So I found this picture of like it was a kitchen table press Christmas party or something like that. So I
How'd
dragged
you,
that
you
image
just,
into this area.
so you
So.
just drag it. That's how you get it in there.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And you can upload a file too. I think I had to play around with this file to get it centered.
Hmm.
And then in this file, this other class, I found a picture of like Magnus Hirschfeld Institute or something, and I just kind of dragged it in here. But you can change the image. You can use one of
Hmm.
these images, which are sort of generic, or you can upload or customize it however you wish. Um, and there are, let me see if I can find.
There's also the widget there, which is so you could make that your calendar or something, or you could make it something that you want students to see, right? Um,
And you manage, also an important feature of a Blackboard. You manage your widgets through course administration. And you can add things, you can create widgets. And I don't have a lot of need for that in my classes, but yeah, for this, you can kind of add information here. You can add a picture, a little
oh
biography,
yeah, about yourself, right? Hmm.
links to your social profile. Um,
Can I ask a slightly different question?
yeah.
Um, so I've been playing around with just like looking at some of the Brightspace guides for other campuses, and I've noticed that like Hunter does not seem to have some features that other ones do. Is there someone I can like complain to about that?
I would, yeah.
Like I don't just want to start an IT ticket, like I'm seeing that like BMCC has like very explicit instructions on how to do enable the peer mark integration with Turnitin, and it's just like not an option in our backend. You know what I mean? So like, I'm just curious if there's somebody who's making these choices that we could be like, hey, these are things that we don't have that we would like to have that I know exist.
If you put those into an email, I can send it to the Center for Online Learning and CCU. Yeah,
Okay.
that
I
email.
also had
Exactly. You can send it to,
Shashwan,
yeah.
Hmm.
who's in the Center for Online Learning, is also
Gotcha. Yes,
trained.
that's the one. The
Okay.
person. And
So
she,
you think it's cool to just email them directly and be like, "Hey,
yes.
I'm seeing these things." Okay, cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
And they
Yeah.
may have them somewhere. What did you find, Emily? I'm just curious.
Well, BNCC has like a really great like site that has just instead of video trainings, like all these really explicit instructions on how to navigate the panels. So like this is the one that's about Turnitin and it shows, right, like all these things. But like there's so you know how the exterior tools that it's integrated with are in the like content area. So when you're adding stuff to the module, there's like you can add like a hypothesis assignment, you can do a Google Drive link, that kind of thing. In other CUNY sites, there is where you would add like a Turnitin advanced um, kind of assignment, like a peer mark or something else. And so, and we don't even have that as an option kind of integrated into our extras or whatever they call it,
Okay.
if that makes
I,
sense. Sorry,
yeah, it
that's a
does.
little fast, but
It does. I don't, yeah, I wonder why that is. I don't know exactly how the Turnitin suite is arranged. So for some reason I thought everything was there regardless. I
yeah,
know
but I just wonder like who like if we can adjust the things that go under existing activities in terms of like external tools that we have connected.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
But
Um,
this is useful. Thank you for this website.
yeah, it's interesting to see the different approaches to like making that information available too. Okay, I'm gonna make a list and send them an email.
Other
Wait,
questions? Oh
yeah,
yeah.
sorry, just Emily on that website. So do you just go into the for faculty to get those? You said there's not just the video trainings, but they just have like list of instructions. Is that just in the faculty resources?
Yeah, there's like a whole series of different like blog posts that deal
Blog
with
post,
different
right?
assignments. Yeah, even in the training.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Um,
Um, I think the other thing that is slightly different is where your announcements are. I didn't actually spend that much time in course admin. So this is a useful section. If you click on course admin, it's where almost everything is. If you go to communication and go to announcements, this is where you display your announcements. So I don't think, and this is something that is different from um, this is different from a Blackboard, is that it doesn't send announcements as an email to all students. So
Uh,
if you're going to communicate with your students, um, you also go into to course admin, and I think you go to let's see, I
yeah, where's email?
think you go, well, when you find the roster, let's see.
Groups, maybe?
Sorry.
There was a class list link that was not here. Oh, there
There
it
it
is.
is.
There.
Yeah.
I,
So that's it.
uh,
Thank you. So if you click on this and go to email, this is where you see it. So you
mm,
can't see it because it popped up in a different window, but it creates a mailbox. So or a
okay.
message in a mailbox. So this is what it shows. You see this composed new,
Oh, okay.
right?
Mhm.
So, and it lists your students BCC, so they're not. emailing each other in a mass list or something like that.
Mhm.
Although if you want to, I guess you can move that. Um, you can
Right.
email students individually or select the entire group. So
Great.
and I think that's it. Those are the main things that are different. I don't know that there's anything else on my agenda. So it's very my use of Brightspace like Blackboard is pretty basic. So if you have like additional needs or skills in Blackboard or in Brightspace, let me know. And that's something that I can talk about or find out about. So
So starting in spring, well, winter and spring, we are using Brightspace, right? So no more. Okay, so good. Good
yeah,
to know.
no more Blackboard. I think Blackboard will not
Thank God. Yes.
available
Yeah.
after December 1st. So I think that's the other thing is make sure that when you look at your old modules, you have whatever you need. So, if there are big files that you are saving on Blackboard, if they're not in Brightspace, go back into Blackboard and save those. So I'm thinking like recordings that you've made
Mhm.
personally or like big files that you've scanned or something like that. But most of my stuff is there. Most of my stuff is in Brightspace. I haven't done like a big audit of everything. I don't need to, I don't think. But I do think that most of the stuff seem to migrate. So
And I think that Blackboard, you'll be able to access it a little bit longer. I mean, students won't be, but I think you'll still, not for much longer, but maybe through the term or something. I heard that.
Mhm.
through this spring. Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure they can't just,
Turn it off. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think it seems very drastic, but
I don't know if it's a licensing thing or what.
Mhm.
But yeah, I know at a certain point we're not going to be able to
Yeah,
to use it. So
yeah.
and students are going to have a little bit of a learning curve around this stuff too, because they've gotten used to Blackboard. So we'll have to redirect them to Brightspace.
Mhm.
And the thing that could be really important is emailing them and using that email tool to email them. Because if you just use the announcements, they won't get that message unless they're actually logged into Brightspace, because it won't send as an announcement, so it won't email
Yeah,
them.
that's a big deal. That's too bad. I mean, Brightspace seems great in so many ways, except that was a nice feature, you
Was
know?
a nice feature, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and there may be a way to create a setting where your announcement it generates an automatic email, but I wasn't able to find that. So, yeah. Other than
Well,
that,
Google it.
yeah, I know.
You'll have to Google it.
I did
YouTube.
I did Google it, but it wasn't giving me anything that would
Oh, really? Oh,
out.
okay.
Yeah. I
Maybe
was
it
like, how
doesn't.
to do this? And so,
Yeah.
now the AI generated answers don't always give the most accurate information about how to do
Mhm.
stuff. So, um, yeah.
Okay.
Uh, and I think I think that's it. That's like the main thing.
Great. Thank you.
So.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. We'll check in the spring, and I'm sure we'll have learned a lot. I wish that I was more knowledgeable, but
No, you did a great job. We don't know anything, so
yeah. Well, all right.
comparatively, you're on top.
All right. Well, I
Thank
will
you.
see y'all in the flesh, I'm sure. But otherwise, yeah. Have a good week, and I'll post this online. So
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Hey, can I just say something on a different topic?
yeah. Do you want me to turn off
So,
the recording?
sure, I don't mind the recording. So I just want to let you know that actually right now, well, at 12:30, well, it's not 12:30 here in California. We're gonna have the first meeting with HunterWorks for the internship things. But this is gonna be our first meeting for the semesters. Like, I don't know why they